Passage for a UW-Madison medical student today at the white coat ceremony, symbolizing their entry into the profession. But one student's path to this moment was anything but easy. Only on Action 2 News, Emily Riley shares how that student overcame all the odds.
Among the new students receiving a white coat at the UW School of Medicine and Public Health, Kaniela Aragon's journey stands out. Originally from Hawaii, he faced a tough start, battling dangerous seizures in a remote valley with limited access to health care.
We were really a sinking ship, so for my future and my family's future, we decided to move to Wisconsin. There we were initially homeless before moving in with my grandparents.
In high school, when Kaniela's mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, his calling to medicine became clear.
Seeing the doctors and the healthcare team come together really inspired me to say, I want to be a part of that same system that saved my mother's life.
He enrolled at Marian University, aiming to become a radiologic technician, but a spinal injury changed his course.
I really came to have a greater, deep appreciation for the things I was learning and realized the path I was on was not enough to satisfy what I wanted to learn in medicine. So I decided to switch my path towards the pre-med track.
Friday, Kaniela stood with his classmates, ready to don the white coat, a symbol of years of hard work and perseverance.
It just took me back to all the raw emotions of all the struggles that my family's had and the struggles that I've had.
It's more than just a ceremony marking his entry into the profession. It's the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. While the path to getting here wasn't easy, Kaniela says he's ready to make a difference in the lives of others. Reporting in Madison, Emily Riley, Action 2 News.